I know what my father was.
What he did.
I know the Mad King earned his name.
Burn them all! Kill every Targaryen I get my hands on.
Everyone who isn't us is an enemy.
Sir Ilyn, bring me his head.
See that sword? It's called Heartsbane. It's been in our family for 500 years. It's Valyrian steel. Only a handful of them left in the world. Supposed to go to my firstborn son after I die. To him. He will never wield that sword.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones Season 8 prediction. In one of my recent videos, I talked about the Valyrian steel dagger, which is also known as the cat's paw dagger. The reason why I wanted to make that one was because I rarely ever talk about that weapon, which leads me to today's video. Heartsbane is another Valyrian steel weapon that I don't discuss that often. I did make a video about this sword during Season 7, but that was almost a year ago, and I know I have a lot of new listeners since I made that prediction. I think this is something worth discussing because I believe this Valyrian steel sword still has a part to play in the Great War. A few different things happened during Season 7 that leads me to believe this great sword will be seen again, and it couldn't have come at a better time considering the Night King and his army of the dead are making their way south. Heartsbane has been the ancestral Valyrian steel sword of House Tarly for over 500 years, and this sword finally made its introduction into the show during Season 6. At the end of Season 5, Samwell Tarly left the Night's Watch to go to the Citadel. Sam was planning on becoming the next Maester for the Night's Watch at Castle Black, but most importantly, he was going to the Citadel in hopes of finding some information that could help them defeat the Night King. As we all know, Sam and Gilly stopped at Sam's home in Hornhill, where they had a very unpleasant dinner with his father, Randyll Tarly. Randyll did his best to embarrass Sam in front of everyone, and this is when he reminded Sam of their family sword, Heartsbane. This sword was meant to be passed down to Randyll's oldest son, which is Sam, but he made it very clear that Sam would never carry this sword. This was not the kind of reunion that Sam had hoped for, but he wasn't surprised because his father has always been an asshole. After dinner, Sam knew that he could not leave Gilly and the baby around his father, so all three of them left in the middle of the night, but not before Sam could steal his family's ancestral Valyrian steel sword off the mantle.
Your sister's dress.
She won't mind. Looks better on you anyway.
Sam, that's your father's sword.
It's my family sword.
Sam, won't he come for it?
He can bloody well try.
Given who Sam's father is, everyone was sure that he would go looking for Sam and his sword. He knew Sam was heading to the Citadel, but for whatever reason he never went looking for him. In fact, the sword was never mentioned again, almost as if it never happened. At this point, Sam can do whatever he wants with the sword because he no longer has to worry about his father coming to find him. After the Field of Fire 2.0, Daenerys burnt Randyll and Dickon Tarly alive for refusing to bend the knee. So this means Heartsbane now belongs to Sam. But what does he plan on doing with it? I think there were a few clues in Season 7 that hint at what Sam may end up doing with Heartsbane. When Sam was still at the Citadel, the Archmaester received a raven from Winterfell, and the note said Bran Stark had seen the army of the dead marching to East Watch by the Sea. But none of the Maesters took the warning very seriously. Sam tried to explain that what Bran was saying was the truth. Sam even admitted that he had seen the army of the dead for himself, but it wasn't quite enough to convince the Maesters that were stuck in their ways. Sam said they needed to get every Maester to search the library to look for things about the Long Night, in hopes of finding some answers about how to defeat the dead. But once again, this fell on deaf ears. So instead, Sam put his own plan into action. Once again, Sam, Gilly, and the baby left in the middle of the night, but before they left, Sam had to steal something again, just like he did before he left his house. Sam went into the library and took all kinds of books and documents that could potentially give him answers about the Night King. When Sam packed up their carriage to leave, you could see that he still had Heartsbane with him, wrapped up in the same blanket he had before. So the sword is in Winterfell with Sam and Gilly. I highly doubt that they have been having Sam carry around this sword just for shits and giggles. The North will be ground zero for the Great War, and it's no coincidence that all of the magical swords will be in the North at the same time. Heartsbane will be put to good use in some way. The Valyrian steel dagger popped back up in the North right before the battle was going to kick off, and Jaime Lannister is bringing the other half of ice. So we should see all of these weapons play their part when they need them the most. One thing I am wondering is what could possibly be in all of those books and documents Sam took from the Citadel. Is it possible that Sam finds something on one of those pages that gives him an idea of what to do with Heartsbane? I know we've all been wondering if someone will ever discover the methods to making Valyrian steel. Could Sam possibly have that information with him and he doesn't even know it yet? You also have to consider what type of sword Heartsbane is. Heartsbane is a two-handed great sword, which means it's very big. Given the size of Heartsbane, it could easily be melted down and made into more than one weapon. All you would need is someone that knew how to reforge it, and if they were going to have anyone do this, Gendry would probably be the man for the job. Gendry disappeared for multiple seasons, but since they brought him back, you have to assume he will have a role to play in the endgame. This is interesting because Sam and Heartsbane are now in Winterfell, and Gendry is on his way there too. And you also have to keep in mind, the only reason why Davos went looking for Gendry in the first place was because he knew Jon was going to need blacksmiths to turn all the dragonglass into weapons. Davos told Gendry he was sending him to Winterfell to work in their forges, but as we all know, Gendry just couldn't keep his mouth shut. Gendry did end up revealing his identity to Jon, and he ended up going along with them on their mission beyond the wall. But now that their mission is over, Gendry will resume his role as one of the blacksmiths in Winterfell. Now I know what some of you may be thinking. Now that Jon has all of this dragonglass, do they even need Heartsbane since dragonglass kills White Walkers too? That is a very valid point because you don't need as much Valyrian steel when you have a mountain of dragonglass. But you have to think of it like this. Why would they have Sam steal this sword and not put it to good use? It would completely defeat the purpose of Sam taking it. He obviously took it because he knew it would be needed. But on the other hand, I don't actually think Sam is going to be the one to use the sword himself. Now I know Sam was able to kill a White Walker back in Season 2, but let's be honest, he kinda got lucky. It's not like he went toe to toe with the White Walker, he actually just stabbed him in the back. Fighting a White Walker face to face is a completely different story, and I doubt it's something Sam wants to do. I personally think Sam will let someone else carry Heartsbane, or he will turn it into several weapons, if that's even possible. I can't guarantee if Gendry has the ability to do this or not, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. The man that Gendry worked for was named Tobho Mott, and in the books he knew how to rework Valyrian steel. He was actually the same person who turns ice into two swords, and since Gendry worked with him for several years, there is a slight chance that Gendry may have learned this skill from him. But they could just be waiting to reveal this information in the final season. I don't think there are any coincidences in this story. Only a handful of people know how to reforge Valyrian steel, and Gendry just happened to work for one of the men that did. George probably added that little layer that way he could use it later on in the story. But this is just my opinion. I know most people don't agree with that. However, I only give it a 50-50 chance to happen in the show. But in the books, I feel pretty confident it's going to happen eventually. Even though I don't think Sam will carry the sword himself, I will admit that there is a chance that he could. Maybe he does it out of spite, or out of pride, because his father told him he never would. Jon Snow has one hell of a suicide squad ready to fight beside him, but the only problem is Jon is the only one that has a Valyrian steel weapon. Jon has all of these great sword fighters in the north, but they aren't properly equipped. I mean, sure, they could use a dragonglass dagger, but a swordsman needs a sword, and Heartsbane is the perfect weapon to carry into battle against the army of the dead. And you're not just going to have some random soldier using Heartsbane. A sword like this needs to be in the hands of one of the main characters. Jon has Valyrian steel, Arya has Valyrian steel, Jaime has Valyrian steel, and Brienne has Valyrian steel. Beric Dondarrion already has a flaming sword, so that leaves only a few top fighters that could be worthy of using Heartsbane. You have Tormund Giantsbane, Jorah Mormont, and the Hound. These 3 men would be my 3 picks, if anyone was going to use the sword. Since Heartsbane is a two-handed great sword, the Hound would probably be able to carry it and swing it the easiest, since he is so big and strong. But Sam has had no interactions with him at all. He might not be willing to just hand it over to a stranger. But that doesn't mean the Hound won't get it, because when Sam sees him, he might just hand it over. Also, the Hound did say he always wanted some Valyrian steel, so perhaps he finally gets his wish. But I don't think it's as likely as one of these other candidates. Tormund could easily do some damage with it, and he does know Sam from their time spent together at Castle Black. But Tormund doesn't typically carry a sword. He uses a different type of blade. Although I am sure he would love to use some Valyrian steel. I mean, who wouldn't want to? In my opinion, I think Jorah Mormont has the best chance of using Heartsbane. Sam immediately had some respect for Jorah, simply because of who his father was. This was one of the reasons why Sam wanted to help save Jorah's life in the first place, and this is when these two started to build a friendly relationship with one another.
Your father saved me more than once. It's the least I could do.
Perhaps our paths will cross again.
I hope they do.
Not only did Sam and Jorah become friends, but Jorah is also a very competent swordsman, although he is past his prime. Jon Snow now carries House Mormont's ancestral Valyrian steel sword. Jon did try to give it back to Jorah, but he did not want it. But perhaps Jorah could still end up using a Valyrian steel sword, if Sam would allow him to carry it into battle. I think Heartsbane would be deadlier if it were in the hands of the Hound, but I could see Sam letting Jorah use it before he would let the Hound use it, but I could be wrong about that. There is one other thing I want to mention about Heartsbane before I end the video. The name of this sword itself could indicate that it has a big role to play in the end. It might be too obvious for it to be true, but since it's called Heartsbane, you have to wonder if it will be plunged into someone's heart. Maybe it's given that name because in order for the sword's full powers to be activated, it needs to pierce a heart. Perhaps this is the sword that is needed to kill the Night's King. We know he has dragonglass in his heart, so maybe Heartsbane needs to be plunged into his heart to counteract the dragonglass that is giving him all of his powers. Maybe that's a little bit too tinfoil-y for some of you. But another possibility is maybe Heartsbane can be plunged into the heart of Viserion. I don't know if it would kill the dragon or not, but it could at least do some significant damage. Now this next scenario is a potential spoiler, so please proceed with caution because if it does happen to be true, it would be a very big spoiler. Now, according to the plot leak that I read on my channel, it says Heartsbane will be the sword that is used to fulfill the Nissa Nissa prophecy. It says Sam will hand Heartsbane to Jon, and he will plunge it into Melisandre's heart, because Melisandre was trying to kill baby Sam. Now some of you should know that I do believe Melisandre is Nissa Nissa. I did make a theory video about that, and I showed a bunch of evidence and text from the books, but I am not so sure if Heartsbane will be the sword that is needed. I suppose it could be, but I don't know how much of that plot leak is even accurate. I won't go too far down that rabbit hole, but I thought I should at least mention that since I am making a video about this sword. Like I said earlier, I still believe it has a part to play, but let me know what you think. Put all your thoughts on this down below. I want to thank you all so much for watching the video, and I also want to thank all of my new Patreon supporters. There were about 5 or 6 new people that signed up yesterday, and I cannot thank you all enough. I really do appreciate that because it helps a lot. Anyways, I hope everyone has a great day. I will see you again very soon. Bye.